how do we research our customers and our potential customers? If we're building a brand new product, how do we figure out what people want and then get all those ideas and then collect them in some sort of meaningful way so that we can start working on what people will actually pay us for, right? My name is Justin Jackson. I'm the former product manager at MailOut and Sprintly. I've written a book called Marketing for Developers, and I'm working on a brand new SaaS called Transistor, and I'm going to show you my process for customer research, the tools I use, the process I use, and how you can apply this to your product and your startup. Let's get into it. All right, before we begin, a few housekeeping things. I'm going to be doing this customer research for my new startup. It's called Transistor. I'm building it with my friend John Buda, and we are a podcast publishing platform. We already have a few paying customers. Cards Against Humanity is using us for their Good News podcast, but we want to get more customers, and so we want to go out and see what are people complaining about? What are people looking for actively in the podcasting space? What opportunities are out there? Where's the white space? Now, the whole point is if you're just starting out, you might not even have a product idea at all, and that's okay. What you're looking for is a specific group of people and what obstacles they have in their life. Your job as an entrepreneur or a product owner is to figure out how you can create tools that get people over those obstacles to the better life, to the progress that they want to make in their life. And you don't need an existing product for that. In fact, in the beginning, it's better if you don't have an idea yet. Now, if you have an existing product that already has some traction, now you're looking for new opportunities, and customer research comes in handy here as well. Now let's talk about tools. If you saw a previous iteration of this video, I recommended a tool called Icebergs, which no longer exists, and then I started recommending Keeb, which still exists. It has a Chrome extension that you can use to save your research snippets. But for today, I'm going to recommend using a new tool called Roadmap.space. This is a product my friend Dominic is working on, and it has a great Chrome extension that will allow us to save these little snippets of research we're finding. So if I log into my account and I go to the ideas section, you'll see I've already saved some ideas using this Chrome extension. So Roadmap is going to be the place where I collect all of my customer research. And you can use it too. They have a free trial. The link is in the comments below. All right, let's get started. And where are we going to start? Google. Every single day, millions, billions of people go to Google and ask it questions. They're stuck. They need to make progress. They're looking for help. They're looking for answers. And so Google's a great place to go and do research because you already have people in motion. And that's really what you want to target. You don't want to target a problem that no one has. You want to target something that people are actively trying to solve. And when people try to solve their problems, they go to Google first. So I'm going to start just with a simple query: how to host a podcast. And the first result is this kind of scraped result from Lifehacker. I'm going to go ahead and go there. And there's a big article here, which I think could be interesting, but what I really want is the comments. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because I want real human beings to see what did they struggle with. What kind of problems do people run into as they're trying to start a podcast or looking for a podcast host? Here in the comments, I see this one here by Patrick, and he's saying, it's really important to get your hosting, publishing, RSS feed set up properly, or you might have to go back and reconfigure things later. That sounds like an obstacle. There sounds like some pain here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this whole thing, and I'm going to click my Roadmap extension. And what it does is it grabs that piece of highlighted text and puts it right into feedback. And I'm going to just click submit, and that's going to save it into my Roadmap account. All right, so let's go back to our Google search results and see what else we can find. Basically, we're looking for blog posts with comments. Here's another one. Let's click on this. and I find this comment by Ben. He says, my podcast is a month old and I've been publishing to iTunes via SoundCloud, but I wish I'd set it up through something else. What's the best way to redirect the RSS? Can I keep my current downloads and stats? So I'm going to capture this as well using the Roadmap extension here. Just going to submit that. Before we leave Google searches, I'm going to log into Ahrefs and I'm going to search for my competitor. So Libsyn is one of my competitors. I'm going to go ahead and search that. And what this is going to do is provide me with the organic keywords, the keywords people are using to find Libsyn. So I'm going to click on organic keywords. And here's what we get. We get the keywords people are using to find Libsyn. So Libsyn, the brand name, is number one, but then podcast hosting, liberated syndication, Libsyn podcast, etc. Now I can click through on this one, podcast hosting. I'm interested in that. And now I can see all sorts of information about these keywords here. And these could be helpful for SEO, but what I'm doing is customer research. And what I really want to know are which sites are ranking for that keyword. So this one here is, this Huffington Post article is, and Libsyn is here at number 4. What I'm really interested in are the comments. And if I find more obstacles in those comments, I'm going to save them. All right, let's move on to the next place you can do your research, which is Twitter search. And host my podcast, ? is what I'm going to look for here. And again, on Twitter, you're going to have lots and lots of noise, but what you're looking for are there any real people here who are looking for answers on how to host a podcast? Now, here we've got one. This person here is looking to start a podcast on March 3rd. It's confusing. So this is just interesting in of itself. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to add this to Roadmap. You'll notice it automatically links back to the specific tweet, right? And again, I'm just going to keep browsing through here and find more pain points. Where are people struggling? Here's another good one right here. Would like to host a podcast, but want to do it without installing and managing WordPress. What are my options? So I'm going to highlight this as well. All right, our next stop is on Reddit. And I'm going to search hosting a podcast and see what I can find here. I found a few threads here. So again, when people are posting these questions on Reddit, it's because they have a struggle and they're trying to look for answers. And in this particular person's case, I'm approaching my 100th episode. The feed is starting to get heavy. Is there a correct way for offloading older episodes while still keeping them available for download? Again, I'm going to save this to Roadmap. It's going to link back to this Reddit post. Easy as that. All I'm doing at this point is quickly collecting data. The next place we're going to look is on Quora. Best place to host a podcast. One thing I'm seeing here on Quora is a lot of folks are asking, how do you get more listeners to your podcast? There's this one here. Why aren't more people listening to podcasts? How can I get more listeners for my podcast about tech startups? So in this case, this is interesting enough on its own. I'm just going to highlight this, click on the widget, click on my Chrome extension, and save this one here. My last stop is going to be on Facebook. I'm going to search for how to start a podcast. And again, what I'm looking for are real people complaining, real people looking for answers. Here's one here from Caitlin. Do any of my friends know anything about how to start a podcast? I'm Googling it and I feel like I'm getting nowhere. And so in this case, this person is getting stuck somewhere along the process. I think this is interesting. I'm going to save this one as well. All right, so it's kind of like we're these scientific researchers going out into the field, observing folks in their environment and where they run into problems, what kind of frustrations they have, where they get stuck. And we've taken these notes, in this case, using Roadmap's Chrome extension. And now we're going to go back into Roadmap and we're going to look at all of this feedback that we gathered. The cool thing is when you get all of this feedback, all of this research in one place, you can start to notice trends. And the trend I'm noticing is a lot of folks are having trouble starting a podcast. They're confused about how hosting works. They're confused about RSS feeds. They're confused about how to submit it to iTunes. They're confused about how to get more listeners. So as I'm scrolling through all of these things, my next thought is, okay, here is the trend I'm seeing. What's an idea of how I might be able to help these people out? What's a small step our product team could take? And in this case, I think it's actually a how to get started guide. So I'm going to go over here to ideas. I'm going to click new idea. I'm going to call it Create Guide, How to Start Your Podcast. Roadmap offers all these options. You can say, is this a product item? Is this a design option, an engineering option? We're going to add marketing. This is going to be for the marketing team. What's the objective? I'm going to put competitive advantage. How much value is here versus effort? Well, I think there's a lot of value, but it's actually going to be fairly low effort to create this guide. I can also enter in tags here. One I'm going to add is getting started. That's going to be the tag for this. All right, so now I'm going to create this idea. Once my idea is created, I can go back to my feedback and I can start adding the feedback I got to these specific ideas. So if I go into this feedback here, this person's looking for a way to start a podcast, and I still have the source of that comment. I can click on here. I can see this was a Facebook post. And so I actually have that person's information still. If I create the solution, I can go back and actually give it to them, right? So I'm going to add this to an idea, and I'm going to select an existing idea, create a guide, how to start your podcast. So now that idea has been added there. Now, here's another one. How do you get more listeners? Again, I'm going to add this to an idea, create a guide, how to start your podcast. Here's another one that fits nicely with that idea. I'm going to add that. Here's another one. And here's the final bit of feedback I'm going to add to this idea. Now I can go to the idea, and as I go into this idea, you'll notice all of that bit of research, all of that feedback I got is all in one place. And so I always know where the source is. For example, if I want to go back to these folks and maybe ask more questions, or if I want to track them down and do an interview, I can do that. I know where I got that bit of feedback. I could even add phone call transcripts here. I could add bits of feedback I got from Intercom, all in one spot. And as we're having product discussions, we can say, well, we know this is a real human being with a real problem. This is how they articulated it. This is the pain point or the struggle we're trying to solve. All right, so what have we done so far? We've gone out and done our research. We've captured that research. We've gone through it. We've looked for trends. We have an idea of how we might be able to make their life better. We've created the idea. We've added all of that research to the idea. Now it's time to actually start the process of building that thing that we've identified. And inside of Roadmap, there's an easy way to do that. I can convert it to a story. And so now I have create a guide. I've got the value versus effort. I'm going to create the story, and then it moves it into our product development roadmap. Right now, this is listed as a future item, but I can say, you know what? Let's do it soon. Okay, so now we've got it under soon, and once we start working on it, I can move it over to in progress, and then once it's completed, it'll end up in the completed stories tab. So that's an overview of how I do customer research. This is for potential customers and existing customers. It's also for when you're looking for a brand new product idea and you're hanging out in these different communities and you're noticing trends. You could use a tool like Roadmap to just save those observations and collect them, kind of look at them all the time. And then when you see trends pop out, turn those into ideas. And then once the idea gains enough traction, turn that into a product story and start working on it. If you need more help with this kind of research, go to megamaker.co/research. I've got a whole page of resources there that will help you out. megamaker.co/research.